Jamunatira Vanachadi Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopijana Vallabham Girivadadhadi Girivadadhadi Gopijana Vallabham Girivadadhadi Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamana Tiravana Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopimanandi Haribol. Most Sunday feasts, there are some newer people. I only saw one hand go up as the first-time visitor, but I'm going to speak in a manner that makes it a little easier for newer people, because we've been conducting classes all week long with the very, very senior devotees here in Alachua, so it's going to be a little simpler. I hope that's okay. And the theme of the topic that I was asked to speak about is how Balaram is engaged so nicely in serving Krishna. That's the topic. So Mukhya already read some phrases just in her rapid-fire announcements this evening about ways in which Balaram serves. And the starting point of how Balaram serves is through Balaram's expansions. Through his expansions, he manifests the entire material creation. His potencies expand in the spiritual realm, and he manifests the entire material creation in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It describes his expansion as Anantashesh, and there's practically nothing that Anantashesh doesn't do. He arranges the sitting place, whether it's a resting chair or the bed of the Supreme Lord, his slippers, his umbrella, his sacred thread, his clothing, all his paraphernalia, and there's everything is arranged for service by Anantashesh for the personality of Godhead. On his hoods at the bottom of the universe, he's holding up planets. Outside of the universe, he's holding up the universe on his hoods. He does so much service. And this is all in relation to the cosmic manifestation. He's serving in so many ways the personality of Godhead. But that's his mood. His mood, as we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita, is the mood of service. And the mood of service, additional point I'd like to make, is service we know as dasya or dasya rasa. So all rasas have as that foundation, and he has that foundation, dasya rasa. But he also has the relationship of Sakya, not only in Vrindavan as the cowherd boyfriend of Krishna, but he's also the elder brother of Krishna. And so there's a feature, a thread, a dimension of his mood of paternal affection or older brotherly affection, vatsalya rasa. So a mixture of rasas is described by Rupa Goswami, Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya, all within the personality of Balaram. Even to the degree, according to Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Balaram was born, was conceived in the womb of Rohini. Rohini was mother, so he is Rohini Nandana. Balaram is Rohini Nandana, the son of Rohini. Rohini was one of Vasudev's wives, and because of the atrocities of Kamsa, when Rohini was pregnant for 4 months, he sent her on the other side of the river Jamuna to be under the care of Nanda Maharaj, so that Kamsa would not harm this child of Rohini. And Rohini was a little uncomfortable because her child didn't take birth for 14 months. And because he was waiting for Krishna to appear. And as we know, the birth of the celebration of Balaram's appearance is a short time before Krishna's appearance. He just wanted to be serving Krishna in the capacity of his elder brother, so that's what he did. And he served Krishna right till the very end. Those of you that know the pastime of Balaram's disappearance, just before Krishna disappeared, the cue was given in the script, or the Leela, of Balaram to disappear. And his disappearance was even more miraculous than his appearance. He was in the vicinity of Krishna, by the sea, at Prabhas, where all these events took place. And from his mouth came a form of Anantashesha, and he mounted on Anantashesha and returned to the spiritual world. Make a really good movie. I don't know if they could put on that as a drama for the Sunday feast. And that's, from the very beginning, just days before Krishna appeared, and days around the same day as Krishna's departure, he's engaged in Krishna's service. He loves serving Krishna. Now, I wanted to describe one pastime in Vrindavan and one pastime in Dwarka, where Balaram serves Krishna in a way that Krishna really likes. And one of the ways that Krishna really likes is exercising cleverness. Maybe you've noticed. Sometimes in pastimes of Krishna, there's some obstacle that happens. And he likes obstacles. I mean, he likes everything, but he likes obstacles because it allows him to exercise his cleverness in overcoming the obstacles he likes. Just like Radharani would sometimes speak in such a way. There's a very nice pastime in Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami's writings, where he describes a pastime where Radharani becomes sulky, man, Leela, man. She pouts. this and that and the other thing happens, and sometimes she becomes angry with Krishna. So she ran away, and Krishna was feeling very, very disturbed because Radharani went away, and he was feeling separation from Radharani. Purnamasi, who is Yogamaya in Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan, he asked Purnamasi's intervention, please help. So Purnamasi went looking for Radharani, and she found Radharani in a cabin deep in the forest. And when she came to the door of the cabin, she heard Radharani talking to herself. Why do I get like this? I know who he is, and I have uncontrollable love for him, so why do I get into these sulky moods? She was beating herself up. She was scolding herself, not beating herself, scolding herself for those moods. And part of the happiness of Krishna is when she gets in such moods. There's so many leelas. Many of you know. Some of you may not know. There are 4 hills in Varsana, the place of Radharani's residence. And one of those 4 hills is called Mangar. Mangar. It's a fort. Mangar means fort. It's up on a hill. It's a place where Radharani would go and sulk when she would become angry with Krishna. And then Krishna would go and sometimes do different things to break her sulkiness or angry mood towards him. And Krishna likes it. Not just it's part of his Leela. It's Leela Shakti, and Radharani is assisting him in his happiness. My point is, sometimes Balaram acts in ways that are contrary. And Krishna likes it. I mean, not all the time, but Krishna likes it. So one of those times, you're very familiar with this pastime, Mother Jasoda was informed by the cowherd boys that Krishna had eaten dirt. So she came and confronted Krishna. Krishna, have you eaten dirt? She said, I haven't eaten dirt. And he said, well, even your brother Balaram is saying you ate dirt. He's a liar. And there was a purpose in that Leela. He hadn't eaten dirt. But it was the purpose of the Leela was Mother Jasoda could look inside Krishna's mouth, and she could see inside of Krishna's mouth the universal form. She saw all the stars and the sun and the moon and planets and mountains, and she even saw Mother Jasoda looking inside Krishna's mouth, Everything inside the mouth of this little boy. So it was an opera, and Mother Jasoda thought, I'm seeing things. Something's, I better go lie down. It was a Leela facilitated by an obstacle created by Balaram by telling Mother Jasoda that Krishna had eaten dirt when he hadn't eaten dirt. And of course, mothers are concerned if they hear their little boy has eaten some dirt. So let me see. Let me look inside your mouth if you haven't eaten dirt. He opened his mouth wide, and she saw what she saw. This is called Leela Shakti. Leela, you all know, it means pastime. And there's a potency for Krishna's pastimes known as Leela Shakti. And sometimes Balaram acts in a way that's contrary, looks like, at least, contrary to Krishna's interest, to enhance or facilitate a Leela that Krishna wants to perform. And it's a service to act contrary to Krishna. And then there's another nice pastime that you all must know. If you don't already know, listen carefully. We spent a lot of time the last several days discussing the partiality that Balaram had towards Duryodhana. Duryodhana was a bad guy. like a really bad guy. And we discussed yesterday the pastime of Balaram, just to give you an idea of how bad this bad guy was. Balaram had partiality towards him in one sense, because Balaram was the teacher for Duryodhana in fighting with the club. He was his guru, military guru at least, in fighting with the club. And for a long time, Balaram went all the way to where Balaram at that time was in Mithila for some years. And while he was in Mithila for some years, Duryodhana went there and got trained in fighting with the club. So they had this teacher-student affection. We've been discussing this. It wasn't that Duryodhana really had regard for Balaram, although Balaram had regard for him, because it was convenient, or it was purposeful to get something from Balaram that he wanted. And he wanted to learn how to fight with the club, so he got a good club fighting teacher. But when Balaram came to request the citizens of Hastinapur to release Krishna's son Samba, because 6 generals ganged up against Samba, a young boy, which is against military code, against Dharma, and they captured him and tied him up and put him in jail because he had taken Duryodhana's daughter, Lakshmana, on the occasion of her Swayamvar ceremony. It's a long story for those of you that are newer. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. But Duryodhana considered it to be an offense or an insult when it was actually heroic, and many other things. So Balaram came, when the Narada Muni, this is getting at how Balaram had a reason to not have partiality towards Duryodhana. When the residents of Dwarka found out that Krishna's son Samba is in jail, tied up by the Kauravas in Hastinapur, they were ready for battle. Their entire army, which is many soldiers, were putting on their armor ready to go off to battle. Balaram made a request, please let me make a peaceful settlement. He likes being peaceful settlement maker, conciliatory person. So they agreed. He went with some ministers, some brahmanas, and he went to Hastinapur. And Balaram sent Uddhava, a messenger. You all know who is Uddhava. He's very dear to Krishna. He also likes that kind of a role. So he went in to meet with Dhritarashtra and asked Dhritarashtra, would you like to know that Balaram is just outside the city in a garden? Please greet him. So they went out and offered gifts and, worshipped him, praise. And then Balaram thanked them and said, here, I've come with a message from King Ugrasena. Basically, without the verbatim, please release Samba and return Samba back to Dwarka. It didn't mention the girl, the daughter of Duryodhana, just release Samba. Whoa, that hit the angry button for the members of the Duryodhana and company in Hastinapur, and they began insulting and vilifying the whole Yadu dynasty and really nasty stuff. And without even saying Haribol, they just turned and left, turned their back on Balaram, insulting him. So there's a nice long section. Balaram is reflecting on what their pride and the essence of what they had said, not only to him, but about Krishna and the whole Yadu dynasty. He understood they're too much proud. So I have to help them. In a service to them, I want to remove their pride. So he took his plow, which got really, really big, and he started dragging with his plow the entire city to the Ganges to drown the city in the Ganges. Must have been a big, wide part of Ganges right there. The whole city was rocking and trembling, and buildings were crashing, and they said, uh-oh, we made a mistake. We didn't speak very nicely to Balaram. So they came back out and spoke nicely to Balaram, like transcendentally nicely. Balaram forgave them, and he took Samba and Lakshmana back to Dwarka. So the reason for narrating this at this time is there was reason, ample reason, for Balaram to not continue to show partiality to Duryodhana. He was a bad guy. Through and through bad guy. He was a student, but a through and through bad guy, putting, conventional terms. A demon. And yet, when it came time for Krishna and Balaram had a sister, as you know. Her name is Subhadra. And if you look carefully at the appendix of Bhagavad Gita, Subhadra is not just the sister of Krishna and Balaram, she's Yogamaya. And Balaram is going to marry Yogamaya to Duryodhana? Wait a minute. And nobody in Dwarka, nobody liked that idea. Subhadra, forget it. I don't want to marry that guy. And he knew it, and he was still going to marry his beloved younger sister, because he's the older brother. And the older brother's voice takes precedence over such decisions. But just to amplify how Balaram has the mood of always wanting to serve Krishna, it's a Leela. It's the Lord's Leela Shakti for all of this to happen the way that it happened. Because what happened next was Arjuna was on pilgrimage. Why was he on pilgrimage? He had made an offense. He violated the word of Kunti. How did that happen? It's a detail, but quickly. Arjuna got word that there were some bandits that were harassing the cowherds and taking the cows. So he went to get his weapons to stop the bandits from harassing the cowherds and taking the cows. And he stopped them. And then when he came back, he went into Yudhishthira's chambers and said, I made a defense. Queen Kunti said that during that period of time that each one of us is with Draupadi, we should not enter. I entered to get my weapons, and I violated the mother of Queen Kunti, the words of our mother, so I have to purify myself for that offense. Yudhishthira said, no, you did the right thing. It was a special situation. You're protecting the cows and the cowherds. You did the right thing. Well, I violated the words of our mother, so I'm going to go on pilgrimage to atone for that offense. So he went on pilgrimage for a whole year. And it was just after the rainy season, so after 8 months, he went all the way, the details of where he went, but by the end of the 8th month, he's outside of Dwarka at Prabhas, a celebrated place, Prabhas, which was on the land side near where Dwarka is, because Dwarka was an island near Prabhas. And he, Arjuna, when he was being trained in military skill by Dronacharya, he heard about Subhadra. Who did he hear about Subhadra from? He heard about Subhadra from a cousin. The cousin's name was Gada, and when Dronacharya was training the Pandavas in military skill, Gada was there, and Gada whispered a few things in Arjuna's ear, like Subhadra, woo, woo, woo. When you see her beauty, Arjuna, woo, 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 you're going to want to marry her, woo, woo, woo. I don't have her picture, but you'll want to marry her. So just hearing about, it's a little bit like Rukmini hearing about the beauty of Krishna. She gave her heart to Krishna, just hearing. Sometimes it works like that. And that's what happened with Subhadra. He already had a fascination for her before meeting her. So now he's outside Dwaraka just before the rainy season. This is described in Mahabharata in detail. And there are different versions, but the Krishna Dharma version is, Arjuna saw the big city of Dwaraka. There's a bridge that one has to cross to get to the city of Dwaraka. He went to the gate on the other side of the bridge and sent a messenger inside to inform Krishna that he was there to see him. Krishna came out of the city of Dwaraka to greet Arjuna, and they sat in a private place and had conversations about his travels for 8 months and the reason for his doing so and all those things. But Krishna, being omniscient, he knew that Arjuna has this fascination for Subhadra. So he asked, he said, yes. Can you help me make a plan how I can marry her? It was like really quick. And he said, it's not easy. So it's an obstacle, right? Balaram's making an obstacle. And Krishna likes using his cleverness to overcome obstacles. Krishna likes. So he said, if you enter the city, it's the 4 months of the rainy season just beginning. If you enter the city like this, you won't be able to stay. If you go as a mendicant, go in the disguise, Krishna's plan. Go in the disguise of a mendicant, and then not only you'll be able to stay for the 4 months of the rainy season, but Balaram is very kind and courteous and extends invitations to mendicants. So he'll invite you, and that way you'll get to see Subhadra in person. But don't reveal who you are. So, powerful Arjuna got into disguise, according to Krishna's plan. And he waited a few days, and he entered into Dwaraka, and he had given a nice place to stay. And sure enough, Balaram invited this mendicant, sannyasi, Arjuna, for lunch. Natural, very just cultural, nice thing. And when Subhadra saw this sannyasi, it was love at first sight. She didn't know who he was, but he knew who she was. And, the glances and the whole program. Later, after some further visits, Krishna took the opportunity to meet with his sister and say, what do you think of that sannyasi? He's the one I'd like to marry, not Duryodhana. That's what Krishna wanted to know, what her desire was. Balaram didn't want to know what her desire was. He wanted her to do what his desire was. It was Leela Shakti. It's just one of those pastimes to make an obstacle for Krishna to overcome with his cleverness. So he said, you know who that son, you know who's Arjuna? You know that powerful warrior of the Pandava dynasty? You know him? And immediately Subhadra could understand what Krishna was intimating. He said, shh, don't disclose this fact. Let some time pass. Arjuna will figure out a way to marry you. That's all. But Krishna figured out the way to marry her. And at the end of the rainy season, there's a festival commemorating at the end of the 4 months of the rainy season, Lord Vishnu awakens, and they take Vishnu from the temple, and he goes in a procession like a Rath Yatra in public form. And otherwise, Subhadra couldn't be seen. check it out. Krishna gave his chariot to Arjuna. Krishna gave his chariot to Arjuna. It was Krishna's plan against the plan of Balaram to marry her to Duryodhana. And he scooped her up and took off, right, in that festival. And Balaram was very similar response to Lakshmana's being kidnapped. This is an insult. He got everybody in the Sudharma assembly hall. What to do. They're getting their armor on. They're ready to go to battle with Arjuna. And everyone was, yeah. But Krishna was silent. Listen. He turned to Krishna and said, "You're silent. You're smiling. Could you disclose your mind to us? Why you're being silent?" When addressed like that, because Krishna knew Balaram, he's not going to do independently without asking Krishna. It's just a Leela. Balaram was making an obstacle for that Leela, and Krishna overcame the obstacle. And Krishna said so many nice things. He said, "This isn't an insult. This is an honor." What family would give their daughter away for money, like a dowry? And what man would accept a woman with some gifts? She's not like an animal. So he did the noble thing. He kidnapped her. And in Kshatriya code, it's the noble thing to do. So it's not an insult, it's noble. It was the right thing to do. Besides, it was my chariot. And you want to chase him? He's such a warrior. There's no one on earth that can defeat him. And if you went after him and you somehow did catch him, you'd be defeated because no one could defeat him. And then you'd be embarrassed. And besides, because he's touched her, she can't marry anyone but Arjuna anyways. So I suggest, my dear elder brother Balaram, it's my suggestion, that you try to catch them and come back and have a big wedding. And everybody in the assembly looked at each other and said, "Yeah, that's right. That's what we should do." And Balaram smiled and said, "Yeah, let's do that." 180, just like Krishna's words, being smiling and being silent. Because that's his heart's mood. Back to the starting point of this whole topic. Balaram's mood is he just likes serving. And sometimes, at least sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it's apparently in opposition to what Krishna wants. But it's to facilitate what Krishna wants, because Krishna is the sum total of everything. We'll say it negatively. There isn't something that exists that isn't within Krishna. We'll say it positively. Everything that exists has its primordial origin in the source of everything. Everything comes from Krishna. Here's a Bhagavad Gita verse. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bodha bhava samanvita. Krishna, source of everything. Here's Prabhupada's way of saying, there's two things. There's Krishna, and there's Krishnas, and there's not a third thing. So what exists in this world is a reflection of what exists in Krishna. And the reality is with Krishna, and this is the reflection of reality. But the reflection exists because the object is casting the reflection. So within Krishna, there's everything. So Krishna likes obstacles. He doesn't have to have obstacles, but by his Leela Shakti, he can create obstacles and overcome the obstacles. No problem. It's part of his pleasure. Even with his dearmost brother Balaram, even with his internal pleasure potency Radharani, even with anyone, there's sometimes obstacles, and Krishna likes. Not always obstacles. But there's just like the flow of the waves of a river. The river keeps flowing. Sometimes the waves go up, sometimes the waves go down, sometimes the waves go up, sometimes the waves become very rough, sometimes it's very calm. There's sometimes and sometimes, even in the spiritual world, but it's all Krishna's pleasure. So even when Balaram or any exalted, intimate devotee of Krishna does something that looks like it's against Krishna, it's not against Krishna. It's Krishna's pleasure. Now, was Balaram thinking, I know what to do. I'll do something that's opposed to what Krishna wants because he likes it? No. He's just acting according to that plan of Krishna. Even so, all things in the spiritual world move according to Krishna's desire. If Balaram, if Krishna wants Balaram to know his plan, he'll reveal his plan. And if he doesn't want Balaram to know his plan, he doesn't reveal his plan. And it's part of Krishna's pleasure. Yogamaya curtain opens, the Yogamaya curtain closes, according to Krishna's plan. I'll just end because I'm looking at the clock. And I try to comply with the time constraints here. When Krishna manifested cowherd boys and calves identical with the cowherd boys and calves that were stolen by Lord Brahma and put into a cave with a boulder outside the cave so they couldn't get out, Krishna manifested exact replicas of each cowherd boy and each calf so that the mothers who wanted to have Krishna as their son could have Krishna as their son. And they didn't even recognize that it was Krishna, not their son. What mother doesn't know what their son is? Is there such a thing? There's no such thing. They may look alike, but Krishna's expert. The mothers didn't know. The cows didn't know. The cows wanted Krishna as their calf, so Krishna became their calf. For a whole year. And Balaram didn't know. How did Balaram not know? He's omniscient. Same with how did Balaram not know what Krishna wanted with their sister? The explanation given is Yogamaya's arrangement that Balaram, who's omniscient, didn't know. So join the Hare Krishna movement and go back to Godhead and be with Krishna and be ready to do whatever Krishna wants. And you can practice it here. And our primary means of practicing it here, we all know. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And hearing that along with the name of the personality Godhead, the qualities and pastimes and wonderful loving dealings between Krishna and his perfected devotees, that's our path. So I'm looking at the hands of the clock and it says, time to end. So I think I'm allowed to have a little bit of time for discussion, questions and answers. If there's any comments or questions, you can raise your hand. I see some over here. Do we have a portable microphone? I can't hear you. There's a little button on the side of the microphone. I can give you mine.
No, that's okay. Yes.
In Dwarka. No. I'm not sure what you're asking. What's he asking?
The lady culture women are very, and I think Shivaji is now is work putting it very young.
Can you hear what he's saying? Can you hear what he's saying, Jai Gopal? Oh, I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
Hare Krishna. So,
Your voice is clear. That's good. Thank you.
I hope my question is clear. The whole pastime of presenting obstacles to Krishna's plan was done by the influence of Yoga Maya.
Well, I use the word Leela Shakti. Go ahead.
And Yoga Maya was Subhadra.
Yes. So it's
So-
Leela Shakti, not Yogamaya.
Okay.
There, and what's the relationship between Leela Shakti and Yogamaya? That's the next question. Yes?
Right, because
Let me share. Let me share. In Vrindavan, we're more familiar with how these things work in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, there's two personalities by name, Purnamasi and Vrindadevi. You read our Acharya's writings carefully. Purnamasi is Yogamaya personified, and Vrindadevi is Leela Shakti personified. And they're a good team. One is the playmaker, and the other is the quarterback that runs the play. Purnamasi makes the plan. Vrindadevi executes the plan. Leela Shakti executes the plan of Yogamaya. Now, Yogamaya personified in this case is Subhadra in Dwarka. So it doesn't give a commentary description. How did Subhadra figure this one out? It doesn't give that explanation. But Leela Shakti, who we don't hear the name of, who she is, how she's working to fulfill the plan, because it's Krishna's plan. And Leela Shakti is facilitating Krishna's plan. We don't have a personification of Leela Shakti that I'm aware of in Dwarka, but it's a Shakti nonetheless. Okay? Does that help you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Hare Krishna.
thank you for this very fun class. My question is that did Balaram ever fight with Krishna by punching him or something? Has there ever been any such pastime?
I don't recall. Does anybody in the room know of a pastime where Balaram punched Krishna? I'm unaware. Nobody else is. Huh? What? Play fun. They would wrestle. No. Yeah. Boys will be boys. And screaming children will be screaming children too. Is that it? Okay. Play wrestling, yes. Anything in the ladies' side? I see one hand over here on the ladies' side.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, as you said that Balaram is in always the Dasya form, so how we can develop the Dasya Bhava in our devotional service?
You associate with those who have the service mood, you develop qualities like those with whom you associate. That's the principle. Sangha. Sangacha jayate kama, kama krodha bijayate. Bhagavad Gita. You develop qualities like those with whom you associate. Just stick around the experienced devotees, even the newer devotees that are quite enthusiastic to serve. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Okay. Way in the back.
Maharaj, very wonderful class. I don't know if it is appropriate, but I was thinking, all the incarnation, if
Krishna's willpower supersedes everybody's, don't they feel little uncomfortable to be subordinate? What kind of God is that? Maybe it's a material way of judging, but I'm still thinking, Mark, Krishna controls everything by his willpower. So Balaram, doesn't he feel little uncomfortable? In the material world, I would feel if my boss is always controlling it.
No, he doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's his happiness. Does he feel uncomfortable being happy?
No.
No, it's his happiness. That's part of the mystery of devotional service. There's happiness in being subordinate. Why? Anyone else?
Then I have a follow-up question, which is, if everyone else is subordinate, does Krishna feel lonely?
No.
Knowing that
That's love.
he's the one.
It's love. It's love. He says no, he didn't feel lonely because for love there's two, and there's not lonely, but there's love. It's a loving exchange of variety. In that variety, he's the source, and everything that's from him is what's from him. And he has a relationship with all those things. He's not lonely. They're persons. They're not they're not matter. They're persons with whom he has a relationship.
And no one is above him.
You got it. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabhavritya, which means he's one and there's no one above him. He's it, and there's no one above him. Everything is subordinate and no one above him. Ekala Ishvara. Eka means one. Okay. Huh? Okay. So we have one hand in the, oh, okay. Two last questions and then we're going to end.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You have the second to the last question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
This man has the last one. And we're going to end. Go ahead.
One quick question. This is with the Kurukshetra war. I know Krishna wanted that war,
Krishna wanted a war.
and he participating in the war. Why did Balaram quit not participating in the war?
Well, because Balaram was taking the same position like Krishna. Balaram was taking the position like Krishna. He wouldn't engage in the war. He went away. Balaram went away because he didn't want war. But he didn't want to participate in the war, yet he yielded to what Krishna wanted. Supposing Balaram didn't want the war. I don't want the war. If Balaram's standing there with his arms across his chest saying, I don't want the war, what's going to happen? So he left. He yielded to what Krishna wanted. But he didn't fight. Is that all right? Yeah. Last and the best.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Like Balaram is like the bodily expansion of Krishna.
Yes.
He's so, even though he's an expansion of Krishna, he's still very, very, very powerful, like as powerful as Krishna,
Yeah.
as wealthy as Krishna.
As what? Worthy?
Wealthy.
Wealthy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Bhagavan. Yeah.
He's Bhagwan. He enjoys being subordinate to Krishna. He likes being enjoyed when Krishna enjoys him.
But Krishna likes being controlled by Balaram too. Krishna enjoys being controlled by the love of his devotees. And Balaram is one of his devotees because he's expansion.
Doesn't that make Krishna subordinate?
Of course, out of love. But don't take it as in material sense. Take it in this transcendental love sense.
Right. So
Right.
This is the problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. It takes subtle intelligence to understand. That's the problem.
Right.
And our intelligence isn't so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Right. And my problem is that I know that Balaram is so powerful, yet he is subordinate or somehow makes Krishna subordinate, some subtle intelligence. But a person, a jiva like me, who's really corrupt by his brain, we want to feel superior. Like in this world, we want to make everyone subordinate to ourselves. Despite of associating with devotees, chanting, yet we have this tendency to enjoy and not getting enjoyed by someone else. We don't feel ready
Yeah.
to surrender to Krishna.
Yeah, that's the problem. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Doing? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you.